if you've watched the Humanist Report before, particularly my segments about Joy Reid, you'll know that I've called her a propagandist. And this is because every single time we learn more information about just how corrupt the DNC and Democratic Party establishment is, she will always come to their defense, no matter what, no matter how much evidence we have. So for example, last week, after learning about the bombshell that Brazile dropped on us about how Hillary Clinton was able to take control of the DNC, Joy Reid told us that in spite of this revelation, the DNC did not rig the election, or the primary specifically. She said that it was absurd to even suggest that that was the case.
There have been people who support Bernie Sanders who are really elated with this information, and some even using it to push the really absurd idea that Hillary Clinton rigged the primaries. You can't rig 50-plus primaries. There's no way to do it. States hold primaries. The DNC doesn't dictate. You go in there and force you to vote for Hillary Clinton. More people vote for Hillary Clinton.
Even though there's a mountain of evidence, Joy Reid is still maintaining that the DNC did nothing wrong, Hillary Clinton's campaign did nothing wrong, and that Bernie Sanders supporters are wrong and that they're just against Hillary Clinton because they are sexist Bernie bros. Now, this week on her show, Joy Reid actually brought Donna Brazile on to talk about her book, and I wanted to play this clip for you, even though I feel like I've already beat this dead horse that is the Donna Brazile book, but I wanted to play this clip for you because in this clip, it was so evident that Joy Reid tried to shamelessly spin the situation and do propaganda on behalf of the Democratic Party establishment that I think this could serve as the quintessential example of propaganda in American media. So we'll start with the beginning of the interview. There's a couple of different clips that I want to show you, but first of all, she does call out Donna Brazile for contradicting herself, because on one hand, she does say that the primary was rigged, but on another hand, she says it wasn't rigged. And that's true. Joy Reid is correct here. So let's start with that first portion of this interview.
So I want to switch to this question that obviously this is the opening gambit for the book, the piece in Politico that talked about whether or not you and whether or not Bernie Sanders thought that the campaign was rigged. You write in multiple places in the book that you, in fact, believed it was not. There are several pages in the book in which you say that having looked at the election, you did not find any evidence that it was rigged, that there was no rigging. So, but there have been excerpts of your book that were posted and headlines that suggest that you do believe that the primaries were rigged. So once and for all, in your view, were the primaries rigged against Bernie Sanders?
I said in my book, no. I found no evidence that the process was rigged. Mm-hmm. However, what I did find disturbed me. I said it was not illegal, because it's not illegal to set up joint fundraising agreements, but it was unethical, in my judgment, to have a process by which, in exchange for bailing the Democratic Party out, because we were broke. I think Secretary Clinton said that earlier this year. We were broke, but you know what? The Democratic Party should not be under the control of any candidate until that nomination process is over.
So at this point, there's nothing too concerning about that clip. I mean, she extrapolates portions of Donna Brazile's book out, the one specifically that lend credence to her claim that the primary was not rigged. But in this next clip, she takes it a step further and she really tries to downplay the significance of this joint fundraising agreement.
The issue is this joint fundraising agreement that Hillary Clinton signed in 2015 that essentially gave her ultimately control of the party, but only if she became the nominee. And didn't all three Democratic candidates sign JFA? So if she had a JFA that would kick in should she be the nominee, and Bernie had one too, and O'Malley had one too, then how was that even unfair to Bernie Sanders?
Well, first of all, it was unfair to have a memorandum of understanding. This was an addendum to the joint fundraising agreement. This addendum to the joint fundraising agreement gave them the control over three departments. And because of those, and I found no evidence, even with those three departments, research, tech, comms, and fundraising in a certain degree. I found no evidence that they played any role whatsoever in the primary process. But again, having your research department, I mean, you know, starting in late fall of 2015, I know they were focused on Republicans. I found no evidence that they were focused on Bernie Sanders. The evidence I did find, I brought it to light, including my own DNC email.
So at this point, you can really tell that Donna Brazile is trying to help Joy Reid out because she knows that Joy Reid is a propagandist for the Democratic Party, and she's trying to downplay what she found. She said she might have taken control of three different DNC departments, Hillary Clinton that is, but it still wasn't rigged. The problem is that Joy Reid still wasn't getting what she was trying to get out of Donna Brazile. She wanted Donna Brazile to downplay the significance of this joint fundraising agreement and say, basically, all the campaigns, Martin O'Malley's campaign, Bernie Sanders' campaign, they were all offered this same agreement. But unfortunately for Joy Reid, Donna Brazile wouldn't budge and wasn't giving her what she wanted.
The question is, if there was a joint fundraising agreement that Hillary Clinton signed, and Martin O'Malley had one, and Bernie Sanders had one, how can it be unethical even if they all had the same access to the same thing?
Because it was an addendum to the joint fundraising agreement that went into effect before the primary was over and lasted until the election was over.
And you can send a copy of that to me.
Absolutely, because if you impede the ability of the chair of a national political party, in my judgment, of doing her job in order to win elections up and down the ballot, your money should not determine or dictate where the chair of the party determine and dictate where the money is needed.
Come on, Donna. I mean, didn't all of the candidates have the same opportunity to sign this joint fundraising agreement that allowed them to take control of the DNC? Say yes. I mean, that doesn't even make sense if you think about this. If all candidates had the opportunity to take control of these 3 departments within the DNC, then how would any one candidate be able to control these departments if all 3 of them were in control of all 3 of these departments? That doesn't even make sense. But yet, Joy Reid is trying to insinuate that, yeah, they all had the same opportunity to take full control of the DNC like Hillary Clinton. That doesn't even make sense, Joy. So obviously, since that doesn't make sense, Donna Brazile was not giving Joy Reid what she wanted. So since Donna Brazile was clearly laying out how she thought this agreement was in fact unethical and unusual and not like other joint fundraising agreements, specifically the one that Bernie Sanders signed with the DNC, and Joy Reid couldn't get her to back down from that claim, what Joy Reid did next was it was masterful, honestly. She then tried to convince Donna Brazile to shift who the victim was. So the real victim wasn't Bernie Sanders, it was actually you. So since Brooklyn took control of the DNC and that prevented you from doing your job, then the primary wasn't rigged against Bernie Sanders. Now, Donna, was it? Maybe the primary was rigged against you. So watch this clip. I mean, this is top tier propaganda here. Joy Reid is a master.
You go through your book, the sense that I get of it is that you didn't feel that the primary was rigged against Bernie Sanders. You felt that that the Clinton campaign essentially rigged the game against you, against the chair of the DNC. My argument in the book on this issue of the resource is that it impeded our ability to do our job as the party. The party job is not just to elect the president, which we supported 100%, but also Democrats up and down the ballot. Donnie Fowler Jr., one of my staffers, said they need 150,000 more in Michigan. I said, I don't have it. Ed Rendell said he needed 300,000 in Pennsylvania. I didn't have it. I had to go out and raise it. And then G.K. Butterfield said there's something wrong in North Carolina. I need more resources. My job as chair, I heard from everybody in battleground states, non-battleground states. And when the chair of the party has to go up to Brooklyn to get money, and then to get them to approve even my press releases, this MOU, which I did not blow up because I felt that Hillary Clinton didn't deserve this. This was an agreement between the DNC staff, who, by the way, wasn't no longer on staff, and Robbie Mook, who was. And I honored and respected Robbie Mook by not destroying that agreement. It sounds like what you're saying is that Robbie Mook, the chair, that you blame Robbie Mook, the Clinton campaign manager, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz for making an agreement that tied your hands. Would that be a fair assessment?
I believe that I think in the future, we should never have a separate agreement. If I raise my own money, no one should tell me how to spend it because I'm raising it on behalf of the Democratic National Committee.
That is some expert level spin there. I mean, love her or hate her, you've got to hand it to Joy Reid because she knows exactly what she's doing. When Donna Brazile wouldn't admit that she wasn't a victim or that she was a victim, Joy Reid then tried to throw everyone else under the bus to save face for Hillary Clinton. She then threw Robbie Mook under the bus and said, well, he was the one responsible. And she even surprisingly threw Debbie Wasserman Schultz under the bus. I mean, she basically made sure that no matter what, culpability was shifted away from the DNC and Hillary Clinton and onto other people who could take the fall, and any scapegoat, basically. So, I mean, it's very obvious what Joy Reid is doing. She is trying to rewrite history in order to shift all culpability away from the DNC and onto specific individuals, so that way you still have trust in the DNC and continue to give money to the DNC. But I mean, this is an organization that is rotten to the core. Corruption in the DNC is systemic. But that doesn't matter, because the DNC and Hillary Clinton, according to Joy Reid, can never be wrong about anything ever. I mean, Joy Reid is incapable of exercising impartiality, even to the smallest extent. And she will say and do anything, even if it makes her look foolish, to cover up for a corrupt organization and a narcissistic public official who decided to rig a primary so that way she could become the nominee of her party. I mean, Joy Reid is really hurting her own legitimacy and credibility by performing mental gymnastics that are obvious, in real time, and trying to bend over backwards to do propaganda for the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign. And really, this is one of the more brazen examples of Joy Reid doing propaganda on behalf of the DNC. Well, Joy, look, this is something that is undeniable. Now, if you continue to say that the primary wasn't rigged, you're not actually convincing anyone of that. You're just making yourself look foolish, because we have so much evidence now to say that the primary was not rigged in favor of Hillary Clinton. You're just a lunatic. But we all know that Joy knows the truth. Joy knows that the primary was rigged. Joy Reid saw the evidence. I know she had to go through it so that way she could figure out a way to spin it, but she's making herself look foolish here. So, I mean, the way that we saw her really continue to move the goalpost here was just... This is exactly what propaganda is all about. I mean, if the evidence is too overwhelming, then you change the narrative. You make it so that way Donna Brazile is the victim. And if the evidence is still too overwhelming, which it was in this case, then you say that someone from Hillary Clinton's campaign was really the one who was responsible for this unethical joint fundraising agreement. So, I mean, this is top-tier propaganda, as I stated. You are not going to find a more brazen example of propaganda. I mean, she would make Fox News proud, because this is propaganda that you would see on state-run media outlets in authoritarian regimes. So Joy Reid, I mean, she has sold out more so than anyone else in the mainstream media after this clip. I'm convinced of it, which is sad, because she's intelligent and she really could be using her platform to do good. But instead, she chooses to provide cover to corrupt public officials and corrupt organizations. It's just sad.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.